Money Matters Skills. Welcome to e-learning with Jocie's Cosmetology School. Lesson 2, Living on Your Own. As young people grow up, a common goal is to live on their own. However, the challenge of independent living are quite often sometimes from expectations. This lesson will provide a reality check for you as you investigate the costs associated with moving, obtaining furniture and appliances, and renting an apartment. In preparation for living on your own, I must remind you of the budgeting process. I'm going to encourage you to carefully consider various fixed and flexible expenses and learn budgeting strategies for both flexible expenses such as entertainment, restaurant, and vacations, and fixed expenses such as rent and apartment insurance. As you start the apartment selection process, many factors will be considered. Where to live, how much to pay for rent, whether to share an apartment with a roommate, and what type of lease to sign. These are just a few topics that we'll be addressing today. Many of you may not even be aware of the important elements of a lease. We'll also go through various information sections and clauses of an apartment lease. This material will help create an awareness and caution before you sign a lease. The goal is to help you understand the cost of living on your own, provide practice in setting up budgets that include cost, and develop skills and knowledge necessary to interpret and evaluate lease and rental agreements. Moving in costs can include the following: your first month's rent, and most likely your rent for the last month will be due up front. A cleaning deposit and security deposit could also be due. Utilities will need a deposit to have them turned on, and same thing with the telephone. Moving costs can include renting a truck, hiring someone to actually help you move, and all of the time and supplies that it takes to pack up all of the things that you have. When preparing your budget, keep in mind the following: your personal and financial goals, your income, your lifestyle, your fixed expenses, your flexible expenses, moving costs, cost to move in, and the cost of setting up your own household. As a rule of thumb, you should spend no more than 40% of your net income on rent or a mortgage payment. Budgeting to move. If you remember from our lesson 1, The Art of Budgeting, this is the same sample budget sheet we used in lesson 1. It covers your income from jobs and other sources, fixed expenses of rent, car insurance, and a car payment, flexible expenses that could change monthly like savings, food, utilities, clothing, entertainment, household items, personal items, tuition, and school expenses. Transportation might include bus fare, gas and oil, parking and tolls, and repairs. In addition to your regular monthly budget, when you move in someplace, you have move-in costs associated with this: the rent for the first month, the rent for the last month, a cleaning and or security deposit, having your utilities turned up, moving costs, and additional things that you need to set up your household. The cost of furnishing and equipping an apartment might include bedroom 1 and bedroom 2, a living room, a dining room, kitchen, utensils and supplies, bathroom expenses, and other. So in summary, the total cost for your first month, the subtotals from lines 1, 2, and 3. The following is an example of a lease agreement. It usually contains the length of the lease, amount of rent per month, the date the rent must be paid, the name of lessor and lessee, address where rent is to be sent. Clauses to be aware of are confession of judgment clause, inability to sue clause, and arbitrary clause. Clauses you may want to add: the list of appliances that come with the apartment, what facilities you may use, any verbal promises made by the landlord, amount charged if you break the lease, list of extras you want to install and take with you when you leave, any damages that exist when you move in, the rights and responsibilities of the tenant, and the rights and responsibilities of the landlord. Would you sign this lease agreement? Tenants' rights might include withholding rent if the landlord doesn't make repairs in a reasonable amount of time, making sure that you have a safe and sanitary premises, and no changes in terms and conditions for the length of the lease. A tenant's responsibilities are to pay the rent on time, use the rental for the purpose stated in the lease. For example, it may not be that you could sublet the property. Taking reasonable care of the property, notifying the landlord if any major repairs are needed right away, giving notice if leaving at the end of the lease, giving notice if leaving before the lease is up, and paying rent for balance of lease if landlord can't find new tenants. Paying for any damage to the walls, floors, and furniture. Not making alterations that the landlord must fix later. Giving the landlord a new set of keys if the change was made to the locks. Paying all of the rent if the roommates move out and you stay. On landlord's rights, they are allowed to charge extra if rent is late by the amount specified in the lease agreement. Keeping part or all of the security deposit if you leave before the lease is up as specified in the lease. Charging rent through the length of the lease even if you aren't living on the premises. Keeping all or part of a security deposit if you damage walls, floors, or fixtures, or if you make alterations that have to be fixed after you move out. Keeping all or part of the cleaning deposit if you don't leave the premises clean when you move out. Landlords are responsible for making repairs in a reasonable amount of time, keeping the premises safe and sanitary, entering the premises only at agreed upon time to make repairs unless there is an emergency, or to show the apartment to potential renters if you're moving out. Paying interest on deposit money, collecting rent, and maintaining exterior grounds of a building. It's important before you rent that you understand all the costs involved and budget and save accordingly. Thank you for joining us for Lesson 2, Living on Your Own.